I mean, just want to get your take on some of these, young guys that. Well, let's start with Matvei, and maybe work through a couple of these other guys, just kind of seeing what you're seeing, and maybe projecting on how these guys will fit in throughout the season.
Uh,
Yeah.
I do want to throw in there. Sorry, Riley, I don't want to interrupt you. Off of what he said is, I gotta commend you. Obviously, Matt Vey comes in here, dude. This guy's unreal. What kind of skills have you been working on with this guy? Just like
Zoom
I'm
calls.
giving you all the credit here. This guy's
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. No, it was actually hilarious. I was in Nashville at the draft when we originally got him. He was at the draft, so he comes up. His English was very limited, and right away I had him on WhatsApp, and I would send him videos all the time, of like me and my little guy hanging out, and like we would just kind of shoot videos back and forth, and then we Google translated everything. So he would always write me in Russian, and I would have to Google translate it back into English, and it always didn't match up with what he was saying. So I sent him this video one time of he just had this sick dangle on this guy. I was doing some video on him, and I sent him the clip. I was like, buddy, what a dangle. And he like writes back like, what's dangle? I was like, I'm like, it's your hands like dangle, like sick moves. And like his personality now being with him at the rink, he can laugh now that it's face to face. I think over a text message, he just gave like a thumbs up, like,
Yeah.
Yeah.
but since he's come over here and he's beginning adjusted to the North American game, the smaller rink, how quick players close on him. A lot of things stick out to me of what Crosby does with the puck below the goal line. I don't think he's going to come in and razzle dazzle you like McDavid or Crosby did in his younger days of, skating through 4 or 5 guys, but he's a very skilled grinder, of which I think Crosby is too, on the way that he can make plays below the goal line, his little cutbacks, playing with guys on him all the time and be able to make little slip plays. So I think that's the one thing about him that makes him adjust to North America fairly quickly already through the preseason. And then the other thing too that stands out is his ability to see through layers when he has the puck on a stick. A lot of guys just see that next play, but he can already see through the back door, to 3 or 4 layers through sticks, skates, and legs. So, that's definitely not something that is taught. I think you're kind of born with that skill and that ability to make plays. But being out there, he loves to score goals. I think the only other guy I've ever seen working with is Tyson Forster.
Okay.
Okay.
When, like Tyson loves scoring in practice, and he'll let you know, he'll celebrate. And Matvey's the exact same way. He absolutely loves it. So I think for the Flyers to have a player like that is just unbelievable to add into the top 6.
Yeah, 100%.
It's crazy because uh, we talked to Danny Briere about him as well, and you don't want to put a lot of pressure on him, but it's almost that he's putting it out there because of the player he is. Like you're saying, like I can't remember. We may have talked about this last week, but having a player of his stature, what he could be, since probably Big E. I mean, as a kid, anyway, as a kid, and like you said, like it just in watching him in these very limited games that we've had to see him, the little plays he makes in small areas. A lot of guys can't do that. I don't know if fans always pick up on that stuff, but I know a guy like you and Riley who played the game, and I watched a couple games over the last 30 years. But he makes those little plays, like you said, it's almost like he sees a step ahead of everyone or through things, like as you put it.
Yeah. And, I think the preseason's an animal, and then you go into the regular season, everybody has their lineups. Um, the one thing I hope for is that if it doesn't, the puck doesn't drop for him right away, or the points don't come, that he doesn't start to put pressure on himself,
Right.
along with the rest of the fan base too, to kind of let him breathe and adjust a little bit, because I think once the floodgates do open, it's going to be pretty big.
Mhm.
And, I think just for a young player like that, adjusting into the US, and then into the league, I think there's still going to be in a little bit of an adjustment period once the season kicks off here this week.
Yeah. Now, I will say, and you kind of alluded to it, it's just his willingness to score goals and the want there, but to compete, right? Like he seems to really have that, and he has fun doing it. He seems to like really enjoy grinding in there, and you said mentioning scoring goals, but his attitude, at least what we've observed from afar, with his limited English, like he seems to have a good, personality and character and sense of humor. So I think however it plays out, he'll find his way because I think he has the compete, he has the attitude, and obviously he's got the rest of the toolbox there. So
Yeah,
I don't know where
definitely.
your thoughts are on just being around him and just the way he's carrying himself. Obviously he hasn't really experienced the pressure yet, but it's right there in front of him.
Yeah, I think he'll be able to handle it. It is pretty comical though. I was watching the rookie games, even the preseason games, and his English is not right up there, but he loves the power play. Like
Mm.
this guy, I'm hoping he can change the power play from the
Yeah.
last three, kind of get them trending in the right direction there.
Yeah.
But he goes out there after they had a meeting with John Snowden during the rookie games, or even with like Rocky or whoever with the exhibition games. Then once they break away from the bench, he's the one pointing to everybody where to go. So I always to like Frosty and like those boys, hey, what was Mitchie saying there? Because
Yeah.
I wonder what he's just barking. Hey, you're over
Yeah.
there.
Right.
Get me the puck.
Give me the
Just running the
puck.
quarterback.
Yeah. So it's pretty cool how he's already interacting. I think it goes to the group of guys. I think the number's like 13 or 14 players on the Flyers roster is under the age of 23 or 25. I think that's the number, somewhere in there. So those guys have done like a really good job of bringing them in, making them feel included, which has kind of allowed him to express his personality and kind of take control in those areas. So a lot of good things from that group and that locker room. What they have done with bringing those new guys into the team.
Yeah, that's a great point by you, Riley, because he's walking into a really good locker room
Yeah.
as far as a team that's a team. I saw Scotty Lawton and Cooch yesterday. I was talking to them a little bit before they took off, and they couldn't say they were raving about him, but his personality and having a guy like Coots, TK, Lawtz, and the whole leadership group. It's not just those three, obviously, but that has to make his transition a lot easier coming into when you got guys and Danny even had said to us, like, he had guys calling, hey, can we help with him?
Mm-hmm.
What do you need us to do? We'll come early. Like things like that. That's huge for a kid coming over like that. Any kid coming over, really. But in this case, it's a very, very special player.
Yeah, it is. And you when you look at the league too, and you look at teams how they're built, like every first rounder for the most part, like you have to hit on them.
Yeah.
Right.
And then the second rounder, he's right there too. And then your third, fourth, fifth, and that's something as a development staff, we want to try and get some of those late rounders to hit as well, which I
Yeah.
think builds a little stock for us. But when you go into it, you can't really have Mitchie fail. And I
Right.
think that speaks volume of that locker room of guys like you said reaching out to help and make this team what it is. And I think the big leader of the room, Torts, has done a great job of rebuilding the culture in the room and making
Yes.
it the locker room that it is now.
Yeah, I totally agree. We got a little away from that for a couple years in Philadelphia. Not to say anything bad about anyone else, but bringing Jonesy, Danny, guys that were flyer. Like Danny I think he was born to be a flyer. Like
Mm-hmm.
Jonesy was great when he was here too. He didn't play a whole lot; he was injured. But bringing these people back and Mr. Hilferty, Dan Hilferty, he knows what it's like. He grew up a fan, right? Like we had him on a few weeks ago, and he's like still a fan, but obviously he's a different kind of
Yeah.
fan
Different
because
type of
he's kind
fan.
of in charge of things. But you're right. It's the culture's back. And one of the things I saw one of your interviews you did and we always talk about this is compete. Like that's all you're asked. That's the biggest thing you want. And that's what you're asked. And it's not that hard. I mean, it's hard, but you want them to compete. And I've heard you say that a few times. And that's what I've seen so far from Matvei and the other kids as well.